Let's go out to the guest line here. Devan Kaney always joins us as we're going through some nonsense on the show. That is not any different today. We needed some comic relief after whatever the hell that was last night. Devin, how you doing today?
What's up, Dad?
Hi, guys. Look, it's always interesting. I never know what I'm going to join your show, like, immediately following. It's usually something Hugh says. So thank you for always keeping it
Well,
interesting.
Joe was fantasizing about Dicker in the last segment.
He was Dickermatized.
Who wasn't?
That's fair. That's fair.
It was
Who was
Dickermatized.
it?
It's natural to be curious.
It is.
Who was it?
I mean, once in a while. I mean, again, who wasn't? Like, you're right, Devin. Who wasn't last night? He did a good job for them. Unfortunately, we didn't do a good job in anything last night. Devin, let's start with the elephant in the room. Jalen Hurts. What did you think? What happened last night? And just in general, where are you on the concern level with Hurts' play?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think definitely fair and an understatement to say not Jalen Hurts' best game. It just, I don't know. And I feel like the team at this point doesn't really have answers. And that's my biggest concern because I don't have answers, as someone who covers the team. And talking to these guys, I think saying that they're phrases that travel through the Eagles locker room, the Eagles team. And I think a lot of them come from Nick Sirianni or some of the other coaches like Jeff Stoutland. Like, he's a big fan of the execution fuels emotion. Of course, Nick Sirianni's tough, detailed together. We aren't really seeing any of those phrases come into play this season, and especially in these last 3 games. And talking to guys like Saquon Barkley after the game yesterday, talking to guys like Cam Jurgens, they just seem like they're kind of at a loss. And that's my biggest concern, because I think that a lot of last night's loss is on Jalen Hurts' shoulders. You can't win games when you turn the ball over that many times. But also like AJ Brown had an awful game, to put it lightly. Like, he dropped a lot of balls. The penalties continue to be an issue. So it just continues to be like a lack of focus and discipline. And to me, that typically falls on, leadership, whether it's leadership from the players or the coaching staff. And that's a big concern.
Could you glean what the overall mood was after the game? Because I know we were talking to Saquon, and we saw the interview that Saquon did, and he was hurt that they obviously lost, but it still sounded like they were together. Did you get that feeling? Did they still feel like they were a cohesive unit after that loss?
Yeah, I mean, so the vibes are never going to be great in the locker room after a loss. And also, I heard you guys talking about the plane ride home. I sit next to Merrill on the plane ride home. I don't know if you had him on or not, but it was so late that most people were just sleeping. So I don't know if there's much to take away from the ride home, but because it was a full red-eye flight. But the locker room, like Saquon in particular, I think the way Jordan Mailata worded his description of Saquon even before last night's game was perfect. He said, he's so positive. He has the best juice, the best vibes when it's raining. Saquon is always there with an umbrella to help us out. And that's very accurate when you're describing a guy like Saquon. And I think it's really rare when you have a player of his caliber. That being said, like, I know energy was a big focus for the guys, and Saquon had told me and then reiterated it again before last night that he felt like the sideline could have more energy, especially on the offense. And he was out there. He was firing guys up even after, Jalen turned the ball over several times. Saquon was walking up and down, hyping his guys up. There's a clip where he's like literally trying to give Jalen Hurts his helmet so Jalen can go out because Jalen Hurts somehow lost his own helmet. I don't know how that's possible. That being said, I'm glad that the run game and Saquon, I don't want to say he had a great game, but he rushed for 122 yards. It's like the second most amount of yards he's had. It was the first rushing touchdown he had since their win over the Giants back in October. So there were still positive aspects to take away from last night's game. That being said, I guess this is all to say I don't want Saquon to feel like he has to shoulder too much just in terms of like the energy and the general like emotion of the entire team, especially when it comes to the offense, because that's a lot to ask of a player who's been here. This is only his second year with the Eagles.
Devin, how would you guess now the rest of this season plays out? Because, there's two ways to look at last night. Tough night, and obviously all those turnovers are ridiculous, and they lost to a team that's probably going to the playoffs out of the AFC. if they play well in their last 4 games, they're still very, very likely to make the playoffs and have a chance to go do something. But the other side of the coin, you can look at it this way, is are they going to be able to get back up, right? When you're not playing well, nothing is guaranteed. We saw that 2 years ago. So I look at the Raiders, I look at 2 games against a bad Commanders team, and I say, it's still there in front of them. What do you expect from them down the stretch of the season where they have some games they should win?
I mean, you said it perfectly. They have some games they should win. I think that is the best thing for them right now. They have the Raiders, who are 2-11 coming to town on Sunday. Get back home. Hopefully that's a get right game. Lane Johnson was reported that he could be back as soon as week 15, which is this Sunday. And then, you have the Commanders, who I don't know what the status of Jaden Daniels is, but they're pretty banged up. They're not playing good football. So I think that the rest of the way, the Buffalo game could be tough, but it also could be a good litmus test, because you don't want to finish the season when regardless, the Eagles still have a winning record. They're going to go to the postseason. So you don't want to go into the postseason with false confidence if you're just, playing these teams that have kind of given up on the season already, like the Commanders and the Raiders. So I think that Bills game suddenly becomes important, maybe not even necessarily to, playoff seeding or what have you, but to evaluate where this Eagles team is and how much confidence fans should have in their ability to win multiple games in the postseason, not just be a one-and-done team in the postseason.
Yeah, it'll affect our psyche for sure. Devin, let's end with this. Your reaction to Kyle Schwarber back with the Phillies, and the Phillies tried to give us some good news this morning because we were down. 5 years, $150 million. Schwarber back with the Phillies. Your reaction to the deal?
Yeah, so, I mean, I am relieved. I think that you can see both sides of the coin here, because it's a big contract. It's probably going to tie the Phillies' hands a bit in terms of, they're not going to be able to go out and sign like a Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman, a Pete Alonso after giving Schwarber that contract. They can still go out and they can probably sign JT. They can probably sign a guy like Harrison Bader or someone of his caliber, a guy who's going to make money, but not, Kyle Schwarber money. I think Kyle Schwarber, for as much as he does on the field, is vital to the Phillies, switching sports here, the Phillies clubhouse culture. And I don't want people to hear that and roll their eyes, because I know that the Phillies have come up short time and time again. And, we've talked about body language and culture, especially when it comes to guys like Bryce Harper. But I think Kyle Schwarber is the vocal leader of that team. And I think him being in that clubhouse, it almost serves as like an attraction to other players. If you're trying to sign other free agents, you're trading for players, because they're going to have to get creative now in terms of how they add to this Phillies team now that they're kind of strapped down money-wise with the Schwarber contract. And Kyle Schwarber does that. He is a culture setter, and he's a guy that other players want to play with and for. And I think that's almost as valuable, if not more valuable, than what he adds, out in the field, or not out in the field because he's a DH, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
in terms of play.
I agree. I think that's why so many teams, Devin, were after him. It's not just that he can play. It's everyone sees this, what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm okay with it. I'm very curious to see, what moves are made from here on out. I would assume JT will be next, and then we'll see what they can do. If they can get creative with some trades and maybe adding to the bullpen a bit. I don't know, guys. It'll be interesting to see.
It will be. First domino is falling, though, and that is Schwarber back. Devin, we appreciate hopping on after a long night and a flight back. Have a good rest of your week, and we will see you at the pregame on Sunday.
Have a good one.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
There she goes, Devan Kaney. All right, 215-592-9494. For quickly, and then back to the phones. I did see this from our guy, John Clark. According to John Clark, source says the Phils really wanted to keep Schwarber. Phillies had to guarantee, this is according to John Clark, Phillies had to guarantee the 5th year instead of it being an attainable option year, and they had to increase the money to $30 million per year to get it done and to beat out other clubs. So, I'm not sure which team it was. I'm sure that'll come out. Well, I don't know if it was the Mets or the Reds. Someone pushed the Phillies to go here.
Yeah,
where they went to.
So basically, I was almost right.
Well, it doesn't work that way in free agent signings. He's either here or he's not here. So, you're not keeping your pennies, all right?
Nah,